Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Point Podcast. Everybody's doing well on this Thursday. I apologize for the no-show yesterday. Just ran out of gas. It happens occasionally. Had to go home and take a nap. With my life, it's normally I'm always going. I like to move. I'm a big walker, as I've told you on the show. I like to move. I like to get my steps in. Try to do 30 to 40,000 a day. So eventually, I wear myself out throughout the week, and I don't sleep very well, and I don't sleep that often, and that's something I got to work on. I think, but maybe not because I get few hours, and eventually I just work through it. I get a nap here, I get a nap there, I get a few hours. I'm more spry today. I'm more excited, and I got very little sleep last night. But that nap counts for sleep, right? So I can put that into my rest last night. Technically, I slept for if you count the nap that I had, it was about an hour and a half. It was a good nap. I probably got 5 hours of sleep last night. That is a whole lot for me. For me, I don't sleep that often. I usually get 3.5, 4 hours a night. Um, and that's not healthy. I realize that. I've had a close friend tell me, you sent me uh, this long, basically a piece about how much sleep you're supposed to get a night, how it can relate to longer lifespan, healthier lifestyle, whatever. And I heard him loud and clear. I don't. He's probably bang on with the information, but that's just not how I can live my life. The NBA game started at 10 o'clock last night. I can't control what time these starts. Maybe if I move to the West Coast eventually in my life, which is on the docket, that could be something that I incorporate. But when the games start at 10, that means it's 2.5 hours, likely going to go longer, all these sports. That means, let's say 2 hours and 45 minutes right in there. So that's 12:45. I'm normally awake at 4 a.m. every morning. That's just when I wake up for whatever reason. And I don't even have to set an alarm anymore. I'm just up. That's just the way it works. And if I go to bed at 1, up at 4, that's 3 hours. So these sports keep me up, but I love it. I love doing this. Love talking to you guys. And one thing you can't do, in my opinion, is talk about a game that you didn't watch. I can't talk about the finals game last night without watching it. I went back and watched the Rangers and Tampa game because I wanted to really dissect. I really wanted to take it in. That's something I feel is important. Is I don't want to say something that I don't believe in. I don't want to give you guys something to think about because to the audience, to myself, it's important to be real. It's important to provide the best possible information that I can. And that's all I try to do every day. I have my crazy takes. My parents are listening to a podcast of mine at work today. And, I don't love hearing my own voice, but I walked around, listened to my own things. And my dad commented that Sunglasses at Night, which was written by Corey Hart, I believe, now that I remembered that after the fact. He said, well, he wasn't a one-hit wonder. We had a little debate about that because he couldn't name me another Corey Hart song. So, in my opinion, I won that debate. I usually win debates because I just pick a winning argument. But that's just one. That's my little life here. But we're gonna have a fun show today to pivot, natural pivot. I'm gonna talk about the finals game last night, Warriors Celtics game 3 from Boston. Matt Wright's going to join in about 25 minutes from now, and we're going to talk about hockey. We're going to bounce around. We're going to talk some hockey. We're going to talk some football with some recent signings. We're going to talk about golf. Canadian Open starts today. And I'm going to ask Ryder this for 100%, but I'm very confident that the last Canadian Open, which was 2 years ago, Ryder was at. So the year Rory McIlroy won it, I believe Ryder was there. He's there for a day, and I'll make sure to get that guaranteed. But I believe he was there. So I kind of want to ask him what his experience was like at the Canadian Open. It's obviously a different golf course. It looks beautiful, and we'll get into the leaderboard, the Live Tour, which started today, and all of that as well. But let's get to basketball. NBA Finals Game 3 last night from Boston, Warriors Celtics. And from start to finish, this was a Celtics beatdown, in my opinion. There were times where the Warriors had a run, where they make a few threes, they get out in transition, and they cut the lead to 9, they cut the lead to 7. But from the tip until the very end of the game, I never worried about the Boston Celtics losing. The line last night was Celtics minus 3.5. I took the Celtics money line. It was a good bet for yours truly. I just felt, and I have felt since the end of the first round, that the Boston Celtics were going to win the NBA championship. And I felt they're going to win last night because over the first 2 games, they were the better team. And what was great about last night is there's been talk in the media, I listen to lots of podcasts, that, well, Jason Tatum isn't embracing the fact that he's a superstar. He's a little timid about it. He's not overly confident, which can shake some people. But the great thing about the Boston Celtics is that they're a great team. Jason Tatum doesn't need to be a superstar night in, night out. He hasn't looked like a superstar player a game in this series. He was good last night. Good to great last night, but he was not the superstar he was in Game 7 against the Milwaukee Bucks. But last night, it was a team effort where Marcus Smart, who's been hit and miss in this postseason, hit and miss in these finals, dropped 24. Jaylen Brown dropped 28, and Tatum dropped 26. The big 3 of the Boston Celtics all played extremely well. The Celtics played great defense. And what's great about the Celtics is that they set a tone early in games. They haven't had a bad first quarter in these finals. They didn't let off in the second quarter. They kept their foot on the throat. And they have guys that can get hot in different phases of the game. And what I mean by that is Jaylen Brown had 22 points in the first half. He only had 6 in the second, which is quiet. But he's a dominant first half player. Every game he starts out hot. You know, when he gets the ball to shoot his first 3, it's going in no matter what. He could have 3 guys on him. I think it's going in. And Tatum can get hot in the second half. Their bench can provide some good minutes. The Celtics are going to be alive the whole game. I love having 2 guys that are star players. Tatum, I think, can be a superstar. Jaylen Brown will likely never be a superstar. He doesn't have a good enough handle. He is a good shooter, but he's a great number 2. He's a better version of Bradley Beal. I like Bradley Beal from the Washington Wizards a lot, but I don't think he's ever been as imperative to winning as Jaylen Brown is in Boston. So you look at it, Brown takes over the first half. Plays great. They get some buckets from Derek White. They get some great offensive rebounds, and the Celtics set a tone. And then it carries over to the second half where Tatum is very good. He's assisting the basketball. He's scoring efficiently, and they go from there. Like I said, the Warriors fought back, but one of the big reasons the Warriors lost last night was their defense. And in the first couple games, the Celtics you go high screen, you come off that screen, you try to shoot a 3, you dish the ball out. That is normal basketball. That's good systems. That's a good way to get open shots. Last night, the Celtics, from early in the game, said, fuck the screens. Said, screw getting the ball up top. We are going to take it to the Warriors. And the Warriors did not have a paint presence. They didn't have a defender back there. Kevon Looney is a good center, but they were playing so far out where Looney, he can't play in the paint if Al Horford is out in the corner because he's very capable of making a corner 3, of making a 3-point shot anywhere. So you saw multiple times last night where Marcus Smart would get the ball and he would hunt. He would hunt Curry. Draymond Green, who had one of the worst games of his career, and we'll touch on that, got hunted the whole night. It was just a cascade of, we're taking this to the basket and you can't stop us. It was one-on-one, man-to-man basketball, and the Celtics were the more physical, were the more tough team. Golden State has the aura of being a tough team. Draymond Green does that with his clapping of hands after fouls. where he's all fired up. Gary Payton II, I think, is a pretty tough player. But Steph, Clay, they're more finesse guys. They're not tough-minded players, so to speak. And the Celtics proved it to them because the Warriors couldn't do anything about the fact that the Boston just said, we're taking this ball. Okay, Curry, you're on me. Marcus Smart said, that you're going to stop me man to man? No, you're not, because I'm bigger than you. I'm stronger than you. And that's just the way it goes. It also didn't help that Steph Curry got into foul trouble early. Had 3 fouls in the first half, which really limits your ability to play defense. And when you know somebody has 3 fouls, like a Steph Curry, who's the most imperative player to the Golden State Warriors when it comes to winning, you hunt that player. You attack that player, and you force him to make decisions that he doesn't want to make. You force him to play lackluster defense. You force him to back off, and you make him pay for doing that. And Boston did that efficiently. Boston is extremely hard to beat when their defense is strong, which it normally is, but they're even tougher to beat when they have a paint presence on the defensive end. Last night, Robert Williams had 4 blocks. The Warriors couldn't get anything done in the paint. You brought it in there, it was getting rejected, it was getting contested. It was very tough to make shots in the paint for the Warriors. And the Warriors are a great three-point shooting team. Steph, Clay, Poole. But on a night where you're not shooting that well, and you might be a little off, and Draymond can't hit the moon when he's shooting a basketball, and Otto Porter Jr. is good, but Iguodala, some of your other players just aren't finding their stroke from 3. Wiggins had an off night. When you can't get anything in the paint, and the NBA has practically eliminated the mid-range game because 3s are more than 2, but you still go to the paint, so it never really made sense to me. But 3's more than 2, so you eliminated the 18-foot jump shot. It's just you get to the paint, you shoot 3s now. So when there is no way for you to get to the paint and you realize it's going to be a mess for you all night, what do? You shoot 3s. And they might not be great shots. It might be a 3, it might be a prayer 3 where you miss it, and then guess what? Boston goes down the floor and they get an easy look because your defense isn't up to par. The Warriors should be concerned that this series can end in 5 games. Because if Robert Williams is as healthy as he was last night in Game 4, I think the Celtics have a very good chance of winning that game. He's just physical. You don't know he's hard to predict when he's on the floor, what he's going to do defensively. He's just a tough-minded player. And it's very hard to score on him. He's not 100% right now, and he's still playing great defensive basketball. Not to mention, another reason why I think it's tough is Klay Thompson had a great game last night. Shot the ball efficiently, had 25 points. His three-point stroke was going. But Klay in these playoffs has been 1 game a series, maybe 2 if you're lucky. He goes off for a big game. We've seen it in closeout games in rounds 2 and 3. That's the game she shot well. That's the game they won. But you get that great game from Klay last night, Game 3, and you still lose by 16 points. The game wasn't close. So I don't have a whole lot of faith that Klay Thompson is going to be able to bring that again. Maybe I'll be wrong. Klay Thompson is an all-time great player. I think he's the second best shooter in the history of the National Basketball Association. But, and there's always a but, he's hurt. He's not the same player. It's a lingering issue. He's played a ton of basketball this year after not playing for 2. To think he's going to be the guy to provide offense in Game 4, I don't see it happening. I find it hard to believe that he's going to be the guy because unless Steph Curry goes off, unless Steph Curry has a finals game to remember, it's going to be extremely hard for the Warriors to win. Because they have pieces, but they aren't exactly great scorers. Jordan Poole can be a great scorer. off the bench when he gets hot. Gary Payton's a defensive player. He's not a scorer. Looney gets you offensive rebounds for you to distribute to your other scorers. Wiggins can be a great scorer, but again, he's got a tough task. He's got to defend either Brown or Tatum every time they go down the floor. That's a lot to do on your body. Draymond Green is not an offensive player. Never was, never will be. Iguodala, Kuminga. These guys aren't great scorers. So if your defense is struggling, and something I think the Warriors, after watching Game 3, and something they need to make an adjustment on is the three-point shots, Boston makes them. But if you have to collapse to protect the paint, I would do it. Yes, that might leave Peyton Pritchard open for a three. That might leave Al Horford a little more open. But you gotta make it tougher on Boston to score in the paint. Because it was too damn easy. There never seemed to be an adjustment. There never was, okay, what are we going to do here? And it's difficult for Golden State because they're a small team. Looney's, they're big, and he's more of a power forward than he is a center. You're going to put Draymond there or put Iguodala, and the Celtics are bigger and just stronger because they can bring in Robert Williams off the bench. They can bring, obviously, they got Grant Williams. They're just a big physical team. Tatum is a physical guy. Yes, he's a small forward, but he's a physical player. He's not afraid to bang, to get into the paint and play that game. So if I don't expect Marcus Smart to have 24 in Game 4. But if Brown and Tatum give you the same output, and Derek White, who I think is due for another big game, comes out and plays extremely well, can they match that? For Golden State, this series coming in, I think, was primarily about two players, and that might have changed because I don't think Jason Tatum is the front runner to an MVP right now. I think if the series ended today, Jaylen Brown should be Finals MVP. Tatum might get the vote because he's the next one, so to speak. But just because you had the most cliche coming into the series doesn't mean you should win it. But primarily, before the series started, the narrative was about Jason Tatum. It was about Steph Curry. Now, I mentioned Tatum's narrative, the new one on the block. He's 24, his first finals. Was friends with Kobe. I think there's always that connection. So, and he just seems to be a good person. He's a good basketball player, no doubt about it. And then there's Steph Curry, a three-time champion, an all-time great player, but a guy who's never been Finals MVP. A two-time unanimous MVP in the regular season, but never got the Finals MVP. And for some, that's it. He just isn't that good of a player. He will never be viewed as a top 10 player all time. He'll never be looked at as an all-time great because he never got to that certain level. And to be fair to that argument, which I don't necessarily agree with, but I do think it's important. I do think players are gifted certain accolades, certain achievements when they don't necessarily always have earned them. I always go back to Sidney Crosby in the 2016 Stanley Cup Final. He was awarded the Conn Smythe Trophy. He didn't deserve to win it. He won it from the media because he's Sidney Crosby and because he's an all-time great, and he needed that in his legacy. Phil Kessel should have won it. I think Tom Brady has won Super Bowl MVPs that he did not deserve. His last Super Bowl, he won Super Bowl MVP in Tampa. He didn't deserve to win it that game. The defensive line that sacked Mahomes 5 times and got pressure on him should have been the one that got it. So these things happen. But Steph Curry has played in three games. That would mean he's played in 3 fourth quarters in the finals. Thus far, he has 6 points. That is just simply and easily not good enough. You're the best player on your team. You're asked to do the most. We get that. But you need to be better than what you've done so far. 6 points is beyond lackluster. Robert Williams had 6 points in the fourth quarter last night. Steph Curry is not, once we get to the second half, he's falling apart. He is a great player, But for Golden State to win this series, which I think is a very much an uphill battle at this point, he's going to have to be fantastic. He's going to have to be Steph Curry from three, shimmying, confident. I looked at his body language on the bench last night. He doesn't look like a confident guy. In the second quarter, he cut it to 9, and boss Ime Udoka quickly called a timeout. And normally we'd see Steph, do some kind of hot dog move where he's really cocky and he shimmies and goes up and down the floor. But we didn't see that. It was very subdued. And before the end of the half, he was taken out and he had his shawl, like the sweaters that they wear, that they put a hood up, which I also think is ridiculous. If I was running when it comes to wardrobe, there would be no hoodies with the hood. You don't look professional on the bench. And I get it. I like wearing shorts a lot. Sometimes I didn't look professional and I should have grown up a little bit. But putting your hood up on the bench when you're at your place of work, it's like wearing a hat when you go into a restaurant and when you sit down to eat. I find those both ludicrous. Maybe that's my dad coming on to me is finally wearing off, but I just find it so unprofessional. I find it's just bad to look at. It's just not a good look. But he didn't look confident. He didn't look like, okay, we're going to come back and win this game. And maybe he felt it, that they just couldn't do anything about the fact that the Celtics were a better team last night. But you need belief from your best player. You need Steph Curry to believe that you can come back. And game 4 is tomorrow. There's no 3 days between games this time, thank God, because it felt like the NBA season the next NBA season was starting. All these time between games, my Lord. Why you need three days between games when you're not traveling is beyond me. But we're back tomorrow night. Boston has momentum. And if I'm Boston, you've won so far. And something they should not do, they should not get involved in this, because I think Golden State's going to try to initiate this tomorrow night, is Golden State is going to try to use Draymond Green to piss off the Celtics, to get them into foul trouble, to get them into taking technicals, and getting in to do anything that's not positive, that's a net negative. Because Draymond Green, who talks the most, who does a podcast after every game, who doesn't shut up on the floor, he talks to refs more than their wives, he was god-awful, and he's been pretty terrible in this series. He's taking fouls. He's not defending well. They were beating him off the dribble last night, taking it to the basket. He calls himself one of the best defensive players of all time. I'm not seeing it. I don't know where that was or where that's been in this series. But the fact that he's not guarding Jason Tatum is alarming to me, because you are the self-proclaimed best defensive player on the team. Andrew Wiggins never said he was. He's played great defensively, but Andrew Wiggins has never done that. Gary Payton has never said that he's the best defensive player. Draymond Green has. But there are times he's guarding Al Horford on the floor. You can't put one of those guys on Al Horford? One of your worst defenders should be guarding Al Horford. Point blank. Because Tatum is more of a threat than Horford. So is Brown. So smart when he's at his best. Al Horford's a 35-year-old man. I get it. He's a good player. He's a savvy veteran. Yada, whatever superlative you want to throw in there, good for him. But Draymond, all you've done so far is talk in this series. Say that you got the refs under your finger, basically. They won't throw you out of games. Well, it might benefit Golden State if you're thrown out of games, because you do nothing productive on the floor. You do nothing to help them win. Sports is about winning. You're in the finals. It isn't about you being the center of attention. It isn't about you promoting your podcast. I think he's on the Volume Network or something with Colin Cowherd, who does The Herd, if you've heard of him. But, okay, great. You're a talker. You're a new version of the media. I'm all for new versions of the media because I hate the old version of the media. But I think people are doing that now. I like to think I'm doing that now. You can give an opinion, but it's not hot take stuff. It's not fake journalism where you're reporting on stories that aren't there. What Draymond is doing, I love that he goes back and he does his own podcast and yada, yada, yada. But people aren't going to care when you can't put up anymore, when you're not a great player. Because in this series, he hasn't been. I mentioned I don't know if we'll see another great Clay game in this series. I don't have a whole lot of faith we'll see it in game 4. Draymond's not going to be a great shooter. He never has been, never will be. But he is a great facilitator. It'd be nice to see him control the ball at the top of the key and get some good passing, get some good shots for his teammates, so it's more easy offense. So what I would say to tell Draymond is Clay had his big game. It didn't work out. But can you be a point guard for a game, play fantastic, and play some defense? Because that's what we need from you. We need guys to get easier shots, so it's not contested all the time. And we need you to play lockdown defense and not get fixated on Grant Williams and start clapping in his face. Because yes, the two players are annoying. Yes, the two players are eerily similar because they're irritants, because they play physical, tough defense at times. But screw messing with Grant Williams. Can you D up Jaylen Brown? Can you D up Jason Tatum? Can you take one of their elite players and guard them for a whole game? You might not be able to do it the whole game because you're an older player. You need rest to come off. I understand that. But when you're on the floor, can you take them? Don't guard Horford. Don't guard Williams. If Williams is guarding you while you're on offense, fine. But engaging in this tit-for-tat stuff is a net negative. Because you're a better player than Grant Williams. You're going to the Hall of Fame. Grant Williams is going to the Hall of Nowhere. But Grant Williams might be a champion here if you don't do something to rectify your team. Steph Curry is the leader of the team. He's the best player, but he's struggling. He needs to play better in game 4, no doubt about it, for them to even have a chance of winning. But it's a team sport. And right now I look at it and I find it hard to believe that the Warriors are going to win when the best players on the Celtics have been better than the best players on the Warriors. And I also find it hard to believe when, in my opinion, the Celtics, the better team, are outperforming the Warriors as a team. So the Celtics' best players are playing better than the Warriors' best players, and the Celtics as a team are playing smarter, harder than the Warriors. So with those two conclusions, it's very hard to see the Warriors winning. It wouldn't surprise me to see the Celtics win the next 2 games. Scott Foster reffed the game last night. He's one of the worst officials in the NBA. He didn't screw this up. The Celtics are a better team. Eventually, you're just going to win because you're better. And we're talking basketball. Are the New York Rangers a better team than the Tampa Bay Lightning? That remains to be seen because our series is tied up at 2. But I thought it's fitting with a game night tonight that we'd bring in a Rangers fan to tee up game 5. So back on the podcast, you know him well. Always great to hear his voice. It's Matt Wright. Writer, how are you?
I'm good, Jug. I'm excited for the game tonight. There's a lot of sports going on. Actually, 3 years ago today, I got a notification on Facebook that I was at the RBC Canadian Open in Hamilton. So it's kind of bringing back some memories watching that here today. But very excited to talk some sports with you and looking forward to the game tonight.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that because I thought that I was trying to go back in time because I knew you went to the Canadian Open. And I figured it was the last one before COVID, right? Is that true?
Yeah, I was in Hamilton 2019. Rory won the event there. I guess there hasn't been one since that. It was honestly probably the best sporting experience I've ever had. It was such a fun day. Weather was great. Even get to watch golf all day, and then there was a Florida Georgia Line concert at night right on one of the fairways. So they ran such a great event. I can't wait to go back. I'm hoping to do the President's Cup here in Montreal in a couple of years. So
nice.
But I definitely love to get back to the RBC Canadian Open at some point in my lifetime.
Let's start with golf and we'll go back to hockey because golf's really taken over the sports world, which is rare. But what have you made of the Live Tour? Scooping up guys like Bryson, Patrick Reed, DJ. What have you made of the events the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, golf's definitely kind of taken the forefront in sports, which for the most part, unless Tiger's in the mix or unless it's a major championship weekend, golf isn't really talked about that much from your common sport shows. And I listen to a golf podcast, so I've been hearing about the Live probably a little probably for the last 7 or 8 months. There's kind of been some spark around it, but it just kind of seemed like it wasn't ever going to happen until about a month ago, I'd say, where it really picked up steam. And to see those guys going over there and the money, I mean, money talks, right? For some people, like Rory doesn't need the money. Very surprised on DJ to go, but I mean, the money is huge now and it's not just 1 or 2 guys. Now that there's 5 or 6 fairly big names that are going over, it's pretty crazy. It's going to be interesting to see. You can't really watch the events anywhere. I think Facebook has them or streaming services. So I don't know what the fan base would be like at these events. It's very interesting. Every day there seems to be something new. They just announced today about the Monahan announced the PGA Tour president basically just said that if you go over there, you're done with the PGA Tour. So, but yet they're still able to play in the U.S. Open. I don't know if that will continue for the other majors, but I know. It's a tough look for those guys to go over there, but I think some people will what's the number, right? What number in your head is it worth playing under a Saudi regime backed golf league, right? So I mean, if I was in that position, I'd probably stick with the PGA Tour. Guys are making pretty big money on the tour, but I mean, they throw 100 and 200 million in front of your face. It's tough to say no to that as well. So I'm very curious to see how their first event goes this weekend. It sucks it's up against the RBC Canadian Open because I wish the story was more on the Open, but I guess since the golf's in such a, everyone's eyes, maybe it's good for the RBC Canadian Open this weekend. I'm not sure, but it's definitely a cool story.
Yeah, I wonder about that too, because golf is in the spotlight. And I feel like if you're pro PGA Tour, you may be watching the Canadian Open more than ever this weekend just to say, screw the Live Tour, which is in England. So starts, a number of hours before the Canadian Open. But with the names like DeChambeau, Ricky Fowler, Patrick Reed, DJ, who's the biggest name that you think hurts the PGA Tour the most in losing?
You know what? I think there's 2. And I'm going to say it's Patrick Reed and DeChambeau. And the reason why, it's they're villains. They move the needle.
Yeah.
Everyone knows who Patrick Reed is because he's a villain. And DeChambeau, he's a wacky character too. And to have something work, you need some wacky. You can't have everyone just vanilla. Like DJ's vanilla. He doesn't give you much on the mic. He's a great player, one of the best in the world. But he doesn't move the needle as much as a guy like Patrick Reed does because Patrick Reed's he's an asshole. He's a cheater. Like excuse my French, but he's a cheater and but he's a great player too. And he moves the needle and, DeChambeau's, he's, new age golf, let's call it for lack of a better word, trying to, outdrive everyone and trying to change the way he plays. They move the needle. So losing them, I think, really hurts. And actually, the Live just put out a promo about 5 minutes before I came on here. And in the promo video, there was Bubba Watson and Matthew Wolff were in the promo video. So I don't know what that means, but they were in the promo video that just got released about 10 minutes ago.
Interesting. Yeah. Matthew Wolff would be interesting to get because he's been struggling a lot in the PGA Tour. I wonder how much money he'd get to go over there. But yeah, I agree. I think DeChambeau's huge because he's 28. He's a young guy. He could play in the PGA Tour for another 20 years. And like you said, people care. They have an opinion. They love him or they hate him. Yeah, I think like DJ, like you said, he's so vanilla. He's just whatever. Rory would be the biggest get on the PGA Tour because I think he's the best on the mic and he's so honest. you just know who he doesn't like. He's mentioned before how him and Koepka don't get along, and I think that's good for the PGA Tour. But a guy like DeChambeau, who I think a lot of people on tour don't like to begin with, and you mentioned Patrick Reed, they don't like him either. That definitely hurts. And I also would throw in Ricky Fowler because he's not a great golfer anymore, but he's in the most commercials still, and he seems to move the needle when it comes to just casual golf viewers.
Yeah, I mean, Ricky, this isn't 2016 Ricky Fowler, it's 2022 Ricky Fowler, but he's still, I mean, when you hear Ricky's in the mix, like, oh, Ricky, good to see him having a round, and then he goes out and shoots +4 the next round. But hey, he moves the needle too, and I think the more guys that go, obviously it hurts the PGA, and I love the PGA Tour. I mean, I think there's ways to change it, make it better. I think the season's way too long, so I think they need to change that. I think they need to put in more type team play golf, not all the time, but maybe more events where it's 2-man scrambles or 2-man match play, or just different ways that we're not watching the same thing, especially on the smaller events, like the ones where people really,
like the John Deere.
Yeah, your average sports fan isn't tuning into the Thursday of the John Deere, right? But I think there's ways to make events better in changing the formats of them. But it's I don't think this story's going away anytime soon.
Do you think cutting down to three rounds a tournament is a smart idea?
No, I like the 4. I like 4. I think 3 Friday, Saturday, Sunday would make sense, but I like the 4 rounds. I think it makes the cream rises to the top. You got to, you have to play good for 4 rounds. But I think it's just the season's too long. Like I saw today that the season doesn't really end until the end of November, and then it picks back up first week of January. So there's only a month off, and in that month they all go play Tiger's event, which isn't a PGA Tour event, but people still go play the Zurich or the Zozo, whatever it's called.
Zozo, yeah, Japan.
So I think they could find a way to end it in, late September, early October.
Agreed.
And I think that would help the product and maybe put in some different types in some of the smaller events, have less events that count for points and have other events that guys can make more money at. Like, I don't know. I'm not the guy making the calls, but I just think there's better ways that the PGA Tour can make its product more enjoyable for the average golf fan, not just the golf fan. I think they need to draw in more sports fans on a regular basis.
Yeah, if they go April, like if the Masters, if they have a tune-up before the Masters every year and it starts then, like that's the start date, and it ends, like you said, early September or mid-September, because you'd have all 4 majors, because the Open is now in late July. So you'd have a month of no majors, and you have the FedEx Cup. Mm-hmm. That would be pretty interesting because it's not that long of a season. And like you mentioned, you can throw in some events in September, October if guys want to play for bigger money. Maybe it's, like you said, it's a match play. Maybe it's a charity thing and you get some money on top of it. But I think shortening the season, and also this is a tough one for the PGA Tour because this is basically why the LIV is succeeding. Guaranteed money. Mm-hmm. It's never been there. I appreciate the PGA Tour. They have to earn your tour card. It's one thing in sport. You have to earn it. It's a stressful job for a lot of these guys to keep it. Mm-hmm. But having some guaranteed money at the start may be something they need to look at when it comes to their business model moving forward.
I could see guaranteed money starting right away. I think it's appearance fees.
Yes.
Appearance fees. We're going to pay Rory will give you an extra $1 million extra $2 million to go play the RBC Canadian Open. Even if you're going, we're going to give that to you anyway. I think stuff like that is ways.
You think you got an extra couple bucks this week?
I hope so.
Because I think they wanted him to be there this week for this event.
Right. So
right. I also think just because it's been their PR has been hit a lot lately as well.
Yeah. Well, all the heavy hitters are up in Canada at this event. You see, guys from Augusta, any major decision maker is in Toronto this weekend. Hopefully, not stuck at the airport, but they're in Toronto. So, I love the PGA Tour. I think there's ways they can make it better, and I hope they do. Like I said, though, it's very, very interesting to see what happens over there in the LIV, because it's not like they're playing their events in Saudi Arabia. Like I think their next event is in like Portland, Oregon or something like that. Like they're going to be, in arguably in playing events in North America too. So I'm curious to see how many people go and if everyone gets paid on time too. Cause like, take the KHL, right? There were years where guys, money under the table. You don't know when guys are getting paid. You didn't know when your paycheck was coming. So I think the first couple events will be interesting to see if there's more guys go or if more guys decide to stay. I don't know. His story's not going away, so I'm sure we'll be talking about it again.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it's going away anytime soon. I know you're a betting man occasionally.
Yep.
If you have $20 laying around, would you throw it on a Canadian to win this weekend at the RBC?
Yeah. So actually I started doing this. I don't bet baseball. It's too hard. So I basically once the NHL's done and the NBA, I don't pick back up till football. I take the summer off. But every Wednesday, I'll take $20 and put them on, spread it around between 3 or 4 guys for golf. And then last week, KH Lee was in second place. I had him at 181-1 for $3, and he decides to throw up +4 on Saturday. So that was a tough one. But I put 15 on Rory this weekend.
Okay.
I think he's going to go. I mean, he's -4 right now. He's in the mix.
He's in good shape.
I put $2 on Rose. So, and he's not bad. He's -2 right now. And then I put $3 on Corey Connors, and I don't think that's going to pan out. Mackenzie Hughes shot a real good -4 today. I just hope that on Sunday there's some Canadian flags somewhere on the leaderboard. Like, don't have to be first. I just hope that there's someone maybe in the top 5, 6 within 3 or 4 shots that we can kind of get behind. When I was at the Canadian Open, unfortunately, it was only Friday, but no one really made a move and no one was in the mix. Man, when you get a Canadian, I remember, I think it was Hearn was the last one who was really pushing on a Sunday. This would have been David Hearn about 5, 6 years ago. And people were tuned in. And I hope that's the case this year where there's someone in the mix on Sunday.
Yeah, because it's been a while. Nick Taylor might have been the last guy to win, I think. The last Canadian to win on tour.
That would have been 18, 17.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. It's been a minute. So because Connor's a good player. He finished T13 at the Memorial, and Mackenzie Hughes has been always in the FedEx. But it'd be nice to see because he finished even in the top 10 or top 5 at the Open Championship last year, Mackenzie Hughes. So I agree. It'd be nice just to see a Canadian there. And Mackenzie had a great start. He's right there with Matt Fitzpatrick and the top of the leaderboard. So if he can just have a decent day tomorrow and be in one of the final 3 groups Saturday, Sunday, that's a good story for Canada. Because I don't know about you, Ryder, but for golf, for Canada, it's always, it's nice to see them there, but you almost know they're never going to win. You have no confidence that they're going to close it out.
No, I mean, Canada, we've done well on the female side of things for golf, but for the male side of things, we haven't really had a top 20 player in the world. And Mike Weir. So, and even when Mike Weir won the Masters, he wasn't supposed to win the Masters, right?
No.
So it'd be awesome to see a Canadian. And it's kind of like the Leafs, where it's like, the Leafs haven't won 667. They were saying, no one's won the RBC Canadian Open since 1955. So it's like there's a lot of pressure on these guys, especially if you're in the mix. And that's what David Hearn said when he was like, I felt the pressure to, the country on your back. So hopefully we have someone in the mix on Sunday. I'd love to see it. I think it would help. It would definitely, what it would do, it would help viewership for the PGA Tour. I think the PGA Tour would love to see a Canadian in the mix on Sunday.
Yeah, they'd love to see Rory up there, a few Canadians, probably Justin Thomas, like have their big names and then have some Canadians. I totally agree. Before the U.S., and they don't really care about the U.S. Open because it has nothing to do with the PGA Tour. So they'll see Lefty and DJ play there next week after competing in the LIV this week. Let's pivot to your Rangers. You got the jersey on. What jersey is that? It's a nice
jersey. This is a Messier jersey.
I like it. Looks good. I like it. Okay. There we go.
Messier on. This is my lucky jersey, knock on wood. I didn't wear it last game, so I felt like I have to after the performance we had in game 4. I felt like we might need a little luck. But yeah, this is the biggest game for the Rangers in 8 years since they made their run in 2014. People, the Rangers have a good young team. You think that they're going to, in the next couple years be back in this spot, but you never know. People are like, oh, they'll be back. It's like, no, you don't know that they're going to be.
You don't know. Yeah.
So you have to enjoy the ride, and you have to, hope tonight's a massive. They have to win tonight. They can't lose tonight. If they lose tonight, it's done in 6. Tampa will win in game 6. I really believe that tonight is, if you win tonight, I think they can find a way. I mean, who knows, but tonight's a massive game. They need to get in the middle of the ice. Every shot they had last game was from outside. They didn't really challenge Vasilevsky that much. They have to find a way to get to the middle of the ice. I mean, credit Tampa and their defense and their systematic play. They made some adjustments and they've worked, but the Rangers have to find a way to generate more offense. Even though they outshot them, they didn't generate anything. So they have to find a way to generate offense tonight.
What do you think their biggest problem has been 5-on-5? Because Wright, they don't have a 5-on-5 goal the last 2 games.
Yeah, it's. I think just back to what I said. Everything's from the perimeter. And as a coach, that's what you want. You want shots from outside.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think they have to find a way to get to middle ice. I don't know. I think that they're trying to score off the rush too much. I think they have to get back to what made them successful, which was their cycle. Like you saw the goals they scored early in the series and late in the series against Carolina, it was cycling the puck. It was 35, 45, 50-second shift, in the offensive zone pressure before they scored, where they can't get into the zone right now. So I think just getting back to, simple hockey, getting pucks in deep and forechecking. Their forecheck hasn't been great the last 2 games. Like I said, it's very much turnovers in the neutral zone. They have to get back to getting pucks in deep, establishing that cycle. It's not pretty, but getting simpler, less is more, I think, for the Rangers tonight.
Yeah, I agree. And, I was saying on the podcast, I think Zibanejad's been a superstar in these playoffs. He's really taken his game to another level. He's elevated. He's cooled off a little bit, but he's due that. I mean, he's played fantastic. Him and Adam Fox have both carried the load. And I have very little faith in this player stepping up. But Artemi Panarin is labeled the superstar of the New York Rangers. I think that's a facade, but anyway, he's labeled the superstar. He's paid the most money. Tonight's his night, because you talk about perimeter. It's almost as if he's got like a curse. He's got COVID on the rest of the team, that they all got to hang out back there with him, and they don't want to get to the middle of the ice. I view it tonight as a big opportunity for Panarin to right a few wrongs so far this postseason.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you. I think most Rangers fans would say that. I think the success of Zibanejad has really kind of taken away from Panarin in a good way, that no one's really talking about it, but he hasn't been that great, and he needs to be the best player on the ice tonight. I mean, Shesterkin needs to probably be the best player on the ice, but number 2, I would say Panarin has to have a big night. I'm thinking 2 points at least be a force, at least be a scoring threat every time they're out there. It just seems like shifts he's out there, he's in his own end most of the shift. So I think, and do it 5-on-5, not just on the power play. I think they need to create, like you said, 5-on-5 offense. I'm not sure if Strome's in or out tonight. That's a big loss. If he's in, he's still obviously not 100%. No one is at this time of year, but Strome missing out that hurts. He's been playing some good hockey.
Yeah, because who drew in the other night? Because they usually play Mott and they have Reeves.
Goudreau came back.
Right.
Goudreau came back into the lineup.
I would keep him permanently for sure. I'd keep him because he's a smart player.
There's talk of maybe Sammy Blais potentially getting back in.
That'd be a good addition.
Nothing certain. If they make the finals, you'll probably see him back. But there's rumors he could be back in as early as tonight, but probably not tonight. Probably not this series, but you never know. And he would be a nice addition. I think the Rangers have really missed him on the 4th line. He brings that scoring. He can do it all, really. He's a great, in your bottom 6. I'd love to have him back in the mix.
Other than Panarin, do you have an X factor for either team tonight?
Goaltending. Which goalie's going to step up in this game? We know what Vasilevsky can do in these types of situations. Shesterkin's got to be the best player on the ice tonight. He, yes, nice goals last game, but still, you got outbeat. You got the other guy let in less than you. So I think Shesterkin's got to be a factor. I think Fox has to have a better game. I think he hasn't done as much in this series as you'd hope. I think it's tough when you see what Cale Makar's doing in Colorado. Right. Fox isn't as explosive as Makar. Awesome defenseman, top 5 defenseman in the league for sure. But I think Fox has to have a big night. I'd love to see Lafreniere maybe put one in. I think Heedle's potentially out tonight. That's a huge loss because that line's been playing well. I hope Heedle's in the lineup tonight, but we're not sure on that. It's going to take a team effort tonight. It really is. It's not just going to be one guy. It's going to take a team win. I love that the game's in MSG. I think that they let game 3 slip away.
Yeah.
You can't have that happen again. If they got to get a lead and they got to hold on to it.
Because you look at Tampa, it's really been one line primarily. That Stamkos line's been great. I think Palat stepped up in a major way in this series in particular. They clearly miss Braden Point, but when you have a guy like Palat with so much playoff experience and just he seems like a big game player, he seems to always be there when you need him, whether it's shorthanded, whether it's on a power play, whatever the situation. New York 5-on-5 is a better team than Tampa because Tampa just doesn't have as many options right now. So I think that's why it's so frustrating for me watching New York saying you'd be doing better in this series because you're just a better team.
You can argue that, but in saying it, man, Tampa's 2-time Stanley Cup champion. They know how to win hockey games. That's one thing when, I think is people don't give enough credit to teams that know how to find a way to win. Like winning is the most important thing at the end of the day, and Tampa finds ways to win hockey games. When you look on paper, you're like, they probably shouldn't win this game. Like when they were down 3-2 against Toronto, you're probably like, well, Toronto's going to find a way to win. But no, Tampa found a way to win because they know how to win. Where some guys just know how to win. Some organizations are better at winning. So,
right.
The players bought into a system, and you have to give John Cooper credit. They made some adjustments after game 2 where sometimes people aren't giving the coach enough credit. They made some really good coaching adjustments, and you see the way Tampa's played. They cleaned up their game, and they're not trying to have 40 shots a night. Tampa's won those last games. I know, on game 3, they had 50 some shots, but the game the other night, man, I think they had less than 20. I think they had 13 shots at the end of the second period.
Yeah, it wasn't many.
It wasn't many, but they're finding ways to win, and that's what good teams do. Now, if the Rangers want to, be considered a force in this league, you got to win tonight. You have to win tonight. If they want to play for a Stanley Cup, you have to win tonight. Tonight, like I said, tonight's the biggest game for the Rangers since 2014.
Game 4, 2014.
2014, game 4. Yep. Tonight's. I'm nervous. I mean, I'm nervous as a fan because, like I said, people are like, "Oh, they'll be back there." It's like, no, you do not know that. Like, stop saying they'll be back there because, people probably said the Islanders will be back there this year. Look at the Islanders.
Right. Senators haven't made the playoffs since they're in this, in the conference final.
A Canadian team hasn't won since '93. Like, oh, I'm sure a Canadian team will win in the next 10 years. No, it's been 20, 30, whatever, how many years, right? Like, you don't know that you're going to be back there next year. You can't predict. Yes, you think the Rangers should have a really good team for the next few years. Like, everything says that they're going to be good. They have good defense. Lindgren's coming into his own as a player.
Andre Miller's been great.
Andre Miller's been a beast. Their young guys have been able to develop. Kako, Lafreniere, Heedle. Like I said, the additions of Sammy Blais, Barclay Goudreau. They have a good. They have superstars. Panarin. Whether or not you agree, he's superstars. The name around him, right? So he's in the league. He's viewed as a superstar. You got Kreider's an awesome player. Kreider's the captain of the Rangers without the C on his jersey.
Agreed.
Zibanejad is a hell of a player. Strome's they have a good team. That being said, they may miss playoffs next year. Like you just don't know that they're going to be back. So you have to look at this opportunity as we may not get here again. So you have to find a way to win tonight.
Yeah, agreed. If your Rangers win, what's your confidence level playing Colorado?
Oh, you're the underdog. Let's be honest here. I'm not saying you're going to win this series and win the Stanley Cup.
Is Tampa the underdog?
Yes. Just with the way Colorado's been, handling business, for lack of a better word. I think, well, on the odds makers have, if New York makes it, it's 3-1. And if Tampa makes it, it's 2-1. So like Tampa's a big underdog,
Yeah.
even
Wow.
if they make it in. Colorado's just, man, even with the goaltending situation, they're just, everyone's bought in. They just have such a good team. I don't think it's as easy. I think if the Rangers make it in or Tampa, I don't think it's going to be a 5-game series. I see it going 6 or 7. Do I think the Rangers can beat them though? Yes, I actually do think they can win.
Too.
Anyone who makes it to the Stanley Cup final, like even Montreal last year, like Montreal had a chance of winning. You know, I didn't think they were going to win, but you make it to a cup final, you have a chance. So I'm not going to say you don't have a chance. Would I say Colorado is a favorite? Absolutely. I think I'd be stupid not to say that they're the favorite. I think everything says that they're the favorite, but just because you're a favorite doesn't mean you're going to win. Especially in a 7-game series, anything can happen. But yes, do I think they have a chance? Do I think they're going to win? I don't know, man. Like, probably not. Like, if I'm just looking at, the team, they probably don't win, but do I think they can win? Yes. So we'll see. You got to get there first.
I think either East team can beat them as much. And I think all the hype, they're a great team. Like, I agree with you, but any of those East teams can beat them because I've seen crazier things happen. You go there, like, oh, that team's going to win for sure.
I don't think it's as bad as last year when Montreal made it in, Montreal-Tampa. I think 95% of people were like, well, this series is over in 5 or 6. Like, yeah, it was, right? It was over in 5, I believe.
Yeah, 5, yeah.
So I think it's a 6 or 7-game series with either Tampa or New York making it in.
Yeah. New York, home ice tonight helps them. Garden's usually bumping. I think they need to get a lead early so that crowd stays into it. Do your Rangers get the win tonight?
Yes, they do. I have to, as much as yes, they have to win. They're at home ice. You've been great in your own barn.
Yeah, they've won their last 8 at home.
Even though you've lost the last 2, like, you have to find a way to win tonight. So yeah, I have to say yes. Like, I can't say no, you don't win, because it would rip my heart out if they lost. So they as a fan of the team, as someone who just really wants to see your team make it to another Stanley Cup final, like, you have to win Game 5. You can't lose tonight, because if they lose tonight, I think they're going to have a really, really hard time to win Game 6 and then Game 7. Like I know you did it against against Pittsburgh. I know you got Carolina, but Tampa's a different animal, man. You can't go down 3 games to 2 against Tampa.
Agreed. Huge game tonight in New York. We'll see what the Rangers have in store for the Lightning. Baseball. It's been interesting lately, man, because we've seen a couple firings with Joe Madden with the Halos, and before that we saw Joe Girardi with the Phillies. It's almost as if we're seeing a transition of the game from, the old school manager kind of being kicked out of baseball, maybe for good.
Yeah, Joe Girardi, like you said, he was gone. Had him on as an analyst the other night calling a Philly game. It was the weirdest thing ever. On MLB TV, they were like, "So, what do you think of the Phillies' 4-game win streak here?" It's like, it was just really strange. It's like,
he was on TV, Girardi?
Yeah, they had him on MLB TV.
I did not know that.
Yeah, wow. Talking about the Phillies, it was very strange. But Madden too, like you said, two old school guys, and the baseball's become so analytical. Like, sometimes I don't think Charlie Montoyo has any say with the Jays. I don't
think he has any either. No,
I don't think I think the front office has all the say. So where that's really changed, I think, in the last, I'd say even 5 years, where it seems like front offices more and more are running teams compared to actual managers. Where, you had the former Marlins president on, and he was saying that before the game, they know exactly how many innings a guy's going to go, regardless of how he's going, right? So do you really need an old school manager when the decisions are already made? So I could see, in fairness to, the Philadelphia has been a joke for the last few years. They had, when they signed Bryce Harper, they had big expectations. That really hasn't happened. And the Angels, that's a laughing stock. Like, you have the best, maybe the best athlete in the world in Mike Trout. And then Adam with maybe the second best athlete in the world, Shohei Ohtani. and you can't. You're on what, 12-game losing streak? Like
14 now. They got shut out again last night.
Like you can't. The fact that they're not making playoffs year after year is a joke. Like it's way more laughable than McDavid and Draisaitl not having any help around them in Edmonton. At least they're making playoffs. Like the Angels not making playoffs with Mike Trout in his prime is embarrassing. That you have I mean, I don't think you should fire Madden. I think you got to look up top. Like this GM, like what are you doing, man? But I mean, obviously you need to shake something up, right? Normally, if the front office, needs to shake it up, get rid of the coach.
Yeah, and now I heard last night there was a players only meeting in Miami. Don Mattingly is the manager there, and he's as old school as it gets. He's been around the game forever, so he could be the next casualty this season. But yeah, baseball with analytics, and is it ruining the game, Ryder? Because I still watch it. I can still enjoy baseball, but I'll admit I don't enjoy it as much as I used to. There's nobody running the bases. There's nobody. It just, like you said, it just seems like, okay, well, when Alek Manoah got pulled from that, I'm sure you saw the video of him getting pulled from that start, and he lost it on Charlie. And I felt like telling Alek, if I could, this isn't Charlie's decision. Like he was told, you're going 8 innings and that's it. And I just find it so infuriating that you don't allow athletes to finish what they started or even, play the game the way it should be played.
So growing up, I played baseball and hockey. Those were my sports. Hockey in the winter, baseball in the summer. And I played baseball right up until I played high school baseball. I played BAM AAA. I stopped after BAM AAA. The day I got offered to go out west to play baseball was the day I quit baseball because I said, I love hockey too much. I can't go out west to play ball. But the game I grew up loving is not the game I'm watching on TV. It's 2 different games. Like you said, there's no one bunts anymore. I batted lead. I love laying a bunt down. I love stealing bases. It's not happening, guys. Guys aren't stealing. The shift, there's the shifting is one thing, but like the analytical side of the game, I really do. I watch the Jays, but I don't watch. I used to watch a game every day to be a game on at 2:00, and I'd throw it on. I haven't thrown on an afternoon ball game since the season started. If it's not the Jays, like I am struggling to find the love to watch baseball like I used to.
What can it change? I know they're trying to speed up the game, but if they speed up the game and it's the game we're watching now, then okay, it's a shorter version of a boring game, which in theory is good. But like analytics are good; they're in every sport. But there's also times where you have to be like, okay, I have a feel in this moment. I'm going with my gut feeling and not what the textbook told me.
Yeah, it's like, I sitting at a blackjack table. You sit at a blackjack table. You can play by the book all night, right? You may win, you may lose, but there's a book and you can play exactly by the book. But sometimes you're like, listen, I know there's a 16 there. I know I'm up against a 9, but I'm going to hit or I'm going to stay. Like, I have a gut feeling. Like, there's no gut feeling in baseball anymore. There's no generating offense. There's no runner on first and second, nobody out. Why aren't you laying a bunt down? Like, score a run. Like score a run early in the game, but there's none of that. It's honestly, it's very sad. Like like I said, it's not the game I grew up playing, and there's nothing better than watching a guy go out and throw darts all day.
Yep.
Watching a pitcher, there's nothing worse than when I was playing. It's like, why are we taking our best guy out? He's pitching unreal, but you wouldn't do that. You leave your best guy in. So now, like I couldn't imagine standing at second base where I played and seeing, Manoah coming out and being like, why is this guy coming out? He's throwing bullets. Like, why is Clayton Kershaw coming out after 7? He's throwing a effing no-hitter. Like, what the hell? It's just, I don't get, I know analytics are important, but I really do believe it's ruined the game. Now, how do you change that? I don't know. I'm so far removed from how to change that I don't know. But I hope it does change because, I don't need to sit up and watch guys swing the bat, try and hit home runs. I want to see guys create offense. I want to see, different stealing plays. I want to see manufacturing runs. I want to see, 2-1 baseball games with both pitchers going 9 innings. I know it's boring, but the best game I ever watched live, I watched Clayton Kershaw pitch live at Rogers Center. He threw 8 innings of like 4-hit ball. It was amazing. And now I know the average ball fan would be like, oh, that's not a great game. It was amazing. I loved it. It was one of the best sporting moments I was ever at was watching Clayton Kershaw pitch 8 strong innings, a 4-hit ball. Like, I just think that the game needs a change, because I think it's not drawing in your average, fan. And the problem is people like us, and especially people older than us, are like, this isn't the game that I grew up watching. And I know my dad loves baseball. He probably watches more baseball than hockey, and he doesn't like the product going on right now.
So has he started to drift away from it, or is he still engaged night in, night out?
He's still engaged with the Jays, but I wouldn't say he's watching games when the Jays aren't playing as much as he used to. And
Right.
and I could say that for myself. Like, I haven't followed the league as much as I'd like to. And normally I'm following the league from opening day. I couldn't tell you where some of the teams are at in the standings. And this is the first year of me saying that. Like, I'll check it every now and then. And, I'm not in tune with baseball as much as I used to be.
Right.
Other sports have evolved. I think baseball's evolved for the wrong reasons.
Totally agree. Yeah. And you look at it, Mets and Yankees are good, and you enjoy the games, and the Jays are playing well, but at the same time, you just look and you're like, you don't want to watch a sport and be like, oh, there's another game tomorrow, and you kind of labor that you have to watch it. I don't look at that at the NHL game tonight. I'm looking forward to watching the game because I think the product's been really good. NBA, I think, has been decent, but I know the ratings for the NHL are up in these playoffs by over 2.23 million. I read that yesterday from the mothership. NBA's down. So I think the NHL is doing more to promote their product. I think it's been good so far this postseason. Mm-hmm. Let's get to football. 2 big signings over the last 48 hours, Aaron Donald and Cooper Kupp, both remaining in Los Angeles. Yep. Donald gets $95 million. Cooper Kupp gets $110 over 5 years. So 2 of the nucleus pieces to winning a Super Bowl are back in LA. This big news, obviously, and it keeps the core of a Super Bowl team together.
Yeah, I 2 signings you had to make. I think you have to find a way to get those guys paid, especially the year Cooper Kupp had. You can't lose Cooper Kupp. And you can't lose Aaron Donald either. But at some point, Donald's going to retire. Whether after this contract, he may retire. The thing about the NFL is you can leave whenever, and you made a lot of money. Like, you don't have to play for 20 years, right? You can play. Look at Megatron in Detroit. Like, he probably still could be playing. But, he retired at 27, right? So
yeah,
you can retire and still get the bag. And Donald's done that. But to me, the Cooper Kupp signing's huge. The Donald signing's big in another way, because I think it just opens the doors for defensive players now to make more money, because that's a massive signing. Huge for LA to keep those guys around. Yes, maybe you overpaid a little bit, but to me, I have no problem with teams overpaying for guys that win. Like,
that have earned it.
Like Chicago, they're like, you could say, yes, you overpaid Brent Seabrook, you overpaid, Keith, you overpaid Taves and Kane, but you know what? They won you 3 cups. So yeah, you can overpay. Like, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with overpaying guys once in a while when they go out and win. Now, when you overpay for someone who hasn't had success, it's like, what the hell are you doing? Like, to me, success still matters. I know sometimes it doesn't. Like, some guys are getting paid earlier, like the Cale Makar signing, beautiful signing in hockey. That's smart to get him in for $9 million, because he could easily make 10, 11, 12 million. But I like paying guys for success. I know it doesn't happen as much as it used to. Huge signings for LA, and like you said, keep the core of that team together. And, guys want to go play on teams that have good players. So it's a lot easier to get other players when you have Aaron Donald and Cooper Kupp around.
Yeah, Stafford re-signed this offseason, and Donald and Kupp. They're three of their most important players, which is impressive. And the Rams should be one of the heavy favorites to win the Super Bowl again next year. Obviously, I'm sure Brady and Tampa will have something to say about it, and San Francisco is still no slouch. And what's going to happen there? Our buddy porn star Jimmy is still on that roster. He's not at minicamp this week. I'm just starting to believe he's going to be on San Francisco week 1. Are you getting the same feeling?
There's nothing telling me he isn't, even though he's not at camp. I look at Baker Mayfield in the same position. I think you're going to see Baker Mayfield potentially starting week 1 with everything going on with Deshaun Watson. That's a shit show. Excuse my language, but holy dying. What a mess that is.
I don't know
And
how he doesn't get suspended for the whole year with what's
yeah,
happening.
I think it's looking that way, isn't it? So
Yeah,
that's all. I know it's crazy that Cleveland's going to have to go back and basically beg Baker Mayfield to be your quarterback after everything that happened. Like, what a
right.
circus that is. But it's looking like Pornstar's going to be back. I just don't see. Well, they haven't traded him yet, and the longer they hold on to him, I think the better his trade value is. Like, but I
Mhm.
just think that they need looking at. I don't think they're happy with I can't even think of his name. They had
Trey
the
Lance.
Trey Lance. He didn't show them enough. I think he still needs to be. I wouldn't, for lack of a better term, I'll say groomed a little
Mhm.
bit, just more time to develop as a quarterback. I don't think with the team they have, I think they're looking at it saying, well, let's start with Jimmy and go from there because at the end of the day, Jimmy made them pretty far last year. So
Yeah.
they probably have a better team this year than last year. So I don't see him going anywhere. I think they really were hoping they were going to get Rodgers. And when that didn't happen, and I think
Yeah.
they were really hoping they were going to get Brady. And
Yes.
those two things didn't happen. I think they're like, oh shit, we can't have Trey Lance be our quarterback start week 1. I think they're going to have Jimmy be back.
And he's a good backup because he
Yeah.
knows your system and he's a decent quarterback. Like he's better than Chase Daniel or Matt Barkley or whoever is going to be out there. He's going to be a better option than the alternative. And yeah, I mean, if Baker starts for Cleveland week 1, what a story that would be. I don't know if his ego would let him do it. That would be the other funny thing is how he would react to it all because I'm sure that would be a circus. But
if he doesn't play for Cleveland, does he not play football this year? He's gonna have
yeah,
his best chance to play football potentially now with Cleveland.
and they got a better team this year than they do last year. In a perfect world, like they got a good team.
Yeah, they have a great team. They have a top 10 team in the league.
Yeah,
Maybe even higher. Let's say top 10 for sure. But
yeah.
even with Baker Mayfield as quarterback, they have a top 10 team in the league. So I don't see him if he goes anywhere else, he's going to sign for a lot less money. And I don't think his value is not very high right now. So I don't think anyone really wants him. I see him back in Cleveland. And I think he's going to be starting.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're going to be a starter in Cleveland because the other guy can't play. So there's no competition. He could play for a year, hypothetically, play well, and then earn a job somewhere else, whether it's a trade or whatever happens. He can get flipped to Atlanta, just say Team A, and be their future quarterback based on the success he has this year.
Absolutely. If I'm Baker Mayfield's camp, I'm not rushing to camp. I am
No. I show up the training camp day 1, but the last possible second I have to be
are not showing up until they are on their knees begging for you to come.
Yeah.
They are praying. Come on, Baker. We need you, man.
Yeah.
We need you. You want to get the bag from them. You want incentives. You want guarantee. You need whatever it is. You want, he has all the leverage right now. He went from no leverage, the last time me and you talked to what's this guy going to do to, he should be calling Deshaun Watson saying, thank you for being such an idiot.
Yeah.
He's got all the leverage in the world.
He does. Yeah, he has so much, right? Good for him. I mean, he is a pain in the ass sometimes, but he provides content, so I'll give him that. Based on the Aaron Donald signing, which defensive player do you think is next? Who's the next guy that gets a big contract?
Well, Watt's contract's coming up at the end of this season. So I don't know how many years he has left, but I think someone would still pay big money for him. So I could see someone paying big money for a 2-year deal. I think it's Watt. I think he's the next one. I think it just opens up the door for a lot of good young players too, to be like, well, I want to get paid now, especially as a defender, your body takes a beating, man. In football, everyone takes a beating, but defending, it's first of all, it's hard to do. It's hard to sack quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Second of all, your body takes a beating. So I think guys want to get paid earlier. So I think it just with this deal now with Donald, I think it just really opens up the door for other guys like Watt, like his brother Watt, both Watts, and even though Bosa, TJ just signed with Pittsburgh for a while, but like I said, JJ's contract's up at the end of this year in Arizona. So I think you could look at him. I think there's, Calais Campbell. There's lots of guys you could look to pay. So I think it's a great signing for LA to keep Donald. I think you had to find a way to keep him. You couldn't have him playing anywhere else. I think you had to overpay a bit, but it opens up the door for other people now.
And like you said, you overpay, but if you're overpaying you can make there's an argument he's the best player in football. That's a good investment to make.
Overpaying every day for Aaron Donald. 100%. Listen, I don't even call it overpaying. You have money, give him money.
Right. What's going on right now at Champions and in your world?
Yeah, so I actually just came off 8 straight weekends on the road of spring hockey. So I'm actually kind of on a little mini vacation this week. I had my actually 10-year high school reunion last night. So on a Wednesday. That was fine. I mean, it was a Wednesday. So, I know I'm a program coordinator. I should have coordinated this high school reunion. I mean, a Wednesday night. Come on now. But anyway, it was fun.
Yeah, really.
It was a good time. So plan on a little golf this weekend, spend some time with the girlfriend. I think I need to spend a couple days with the girlfriend. I've been on the road, Halifax, Quebec City, Moncton. It's Halifax again. It's been busy. So we're on a little bit of quiet. There's no ice in Fredericton right now in the month of June. We have a golf tournament coming up the 24th. So I'll do a little work on that. Basically, just make sure everything's ready to go for our summer programs. We kick back up July 4th with our lifestyles camp, which we have over 100 people registered for. That'll be a busy week. And then following that week, we get into all of our nighttime programs starting July 11th. So really looking forward to a good summer. Spring hockey was awesome. It's grind. Spring hockey's it's like in Wedding Crashers, wedding season. Like for me, it's all spring hockey season. It's like, it's a beast of its own, spring hockey. Right. But I love it. I love being in it. It's exhausting when it's over. It's the first week of June is arguably one of my favorite weeks of the year, just kind of winding down from everything. But we're looking forward to, taking a couple weeks and behind the laptop. And then I love getting into summer. And in the summer's your best time to develop hockey players. Like, for our business, summer, we pride ourselves on the summer of using those, 2-3 months of, we're going to hopefully give you every chance possible to make whatever team you're trying to make. So whether it's a rec player trying to make comp, whether it's a comp player trying to make AAA, whether it's a AAA player trying to go from the third line to the first line, whether it's our pro guys trying to go from the East Coast to the AHL, whether it's our AHL guys trying to make the NHL, whatever the age group, we love the summer because it's our best opportunity to develop the players that do our programs.
No, that's awesome. Well, I know the other Warren is going to be joining you this summer, so that keep an eye on her because she's a handful.
Yes, she's going to be on the ice with me Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and then she'll be doing some evenings as well. So looking forward to having her help this summer. She's a great asset. I'm really happy to have her, Jenna McLean. We have a great staff, and we trust our staff. They do such a great job with the kids, and we pride ourselves on bringing in good people. So having your sister work for us, we're really happy. She did a great job this spring. Parents are really happy, and looking forward to having her work this summer for us.
Well, perfect. Well, enjoy the kind of month. I'm not going to say month off, but a month breather. You've earned it. Like I said, 8 weeks on the road. My God, you've earned a little mini vacation, and enjoy the game tonight if you can. I know you'll be nervous, but enjoy that. Enjoy the RBC, and we'll talk soon.
Awesome, Jug. Well, thanks for having me on, buddy. Always appreciate it, and I'm sure I'll be texting this weekend.
Absolutely. Thanks, Matt. That's Matt Wright, everybody. Thank you to Writer for joining, as always. Always great to talk to him. Big Rangers fan. He's gearing up for the game tonight, Game 5 in Madison Square Garden. So a couple hours till puck drop. As he mentioned, Philip Hedl, Ryan Strome are game-time decisions for the New York Rangers. Tough time of the year to get injured, but this is the nature of the business. Draisaitl was hurt the other night. Nurse was playing through a torn hip flexor. So I expect a lot of these Rangers guys to go because they need them tonight. Tampa doesn't have Braden Point. They're going through their own injury issues, but you're in a Game 5. It's in the beginning of June. You're going to have to battle to get through this, and I think we'll see an entertaining hockey game tonight. Don't be surprised if it's a 1-goal game, but I'm with Ryder. If Tampa wins tonight, it's over in 6 games. I think if the Rangers win tonight, I'm not guaranteeing that the Rangers win the series because I think in a Game 7, I trust Tampa to find a way to win that game. But I think the Rangers need to win tonight. I think if Tampa wins tonight, this series is over, just with their experience and what they've been through over the last couple years. So game 5 tonight, I'm going to go with Wright. I'm going to go with the Rangers. Take the plus money. I like the Rangers at home tonight, and I'm going to take anytime goal scorer Chris Kreider as well tonight on FanDuel. So those are my FanDuel best bets for the day. Always a pleasure talking to you all. Thank you to Matt Wright for joining, and we'll talk to you tomorrow here on To The Point.